My name is Eric Lee, and this is my training program that I created for equity real estate. I do appreciate you guys taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedules to join me today. Today's one of my favorite trainings. It's also the most difficult one to implement because it's kind of a lifelong process, and it's being the best you can be. If you have questions, comments, feedback, other ideas you'd like training on, please don't hesitate to email me at brokerericlee@gmail.com. And if you want to see some of my other trainings, I try to post them all on my YouTube channel, which is Elite Agent Training, all one word. If you type in that, then you can find my channel. You can subscribe to it. So let's go ahead and get started today. I originally created this training for our office up in Colorado when I visited them, and it happened to be around New Year's time. And I got enough positive feedback from it, and in retrospect, I said, you know what, this is the kind of stuff that we need more often, not just around New Year's when we're making our goals, but bad habits creep in so frequently into our life that having a reminder is good. I know every time I teach this class, it serves as a reminder for me that I can do better, and it kind of helps me recommit myself. So hopefully it helps you in some way as well. You'll see some of the references to New Year's and stuff in here, and the reason I did that is because New Year's is a time when people typically make goals, their New Year's resolutions. A lot of us will make little goals throughout the year, but by and large, this is when most people do. Okay, the challenge that we have is that a lot of people, they don't follow through with their goals. And if you've ever been a member of a gym, you know this for a fact. January, the gym is crowded. In fact, a lot of regular goers will not go January or February because it's so packed with people that have made New Year's resolutions. But by about mid-February, it's emptied out again, back to normal numbers. And hundreds of people will have paid for a gym membership, and then they just don't do it anymore. Excuse me today, I've got a little bit of a dry throat. So anyways, we're going to talk about some of the things that cause that. Why do we make goals and give up on them? How can we be better? So the first concerning statistic to me is that only 50% of adults in America will even bother to make a New Year's resolution. And I think if they're not making goals around New Year's, that they're probably not making goals at all. Now, an interesting thing jumps out to me here with this next slide. This is a study of those that did make their resolutions. So remember, only half the population even bothered to make goals. Of those half that bothered to make goals, 20% quit after a week. 40% last a month. 50% last 3 months. Now remember, this is 50% of the 50% that bothered to do it at all. So now we're at the top 25% of the population that made goals are still working on them after 3 months. 60% after 6 months. And then some of them, the top 20% of those that made goals, are still going on those 2 years later. What does that mean? It means that the top 10% of the population, because remember, only half of the people bothered to make the goal in the first place. So this 81% that are, or the 19% that are left, that represents the top 10% in the country. Now, I'm not going to get political on you here, but you've heard of the 90-10 principle or the 80-20 principle that says that, and honestly, I think it's 90-10, both in real estate and I think in finance, that the top 10% of the population earn more than the other 90%. And some of the people will get political on that, and they'll say, yes, we need a better distribution of wealth. You know what? That's not it. You could take all the money away from those top 10% and give it to the bottom 90. They'll blow it. And the top 10%, because they think and act differently, those top 10% will be wealthy again within a couple of years. The bottom 90% will remain broke. And there's been plenty of studies that have shown this with people that have won the lottery, professional athletes, the people that have made millions of dollars, and within a couple of years of having those millions, they're broke. It's gone. And that's because money isn't the solution. The solution is within yourself. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. If we don't change ourselves, if we don't become different people, it's almost impossible for us to reach our goals or our capacity to achieve what we're potentially capable of. And I'm not talking, sometimes the self-improvement stuff bugs me because there's no room in there for rest. I mean, it's all about, can you work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week straight? And, just, that's insane. I mean, you need some quality of life, but that's what I'm talking about here is quality of life, living up to your potential, not working yourself to death, just being who you are destined to be. Okay, so don't get mad at the 10%. They're at the top. They think and act differently, and you can be there. This is your boarding pass. All right, we're going to learn some things about ourselves today that will help us get there. We're going to look at two different areas, conscious reasons and unconscious reasons that hold people back from accomplishing their goals. The conscious reasons are fairly easy to work with, and we have a separate training based on that. But here are some of the conscious reasons that hold us back. We don't know where to start. Okay, let's say I've got a goal in real estate. I want to earn $100,000 a year. Fantastic. I've never done real estate, or I've been doing it for 10 years and I've never earned that income. How do I even start? What do I do? And that's a very valid reason, but it's a conscious one. Okay, not realistic for where you are now. Maybe I'm got another full-time job and I'm just too busy. And so I throw this goal out, $100,000, that'd be fun, okay? But it's not realistic because I only have 2 or 3 hours a day to put into it. Maybe the goal is too big, I feel overwhelmed, I don't have enough information or time, which we've talked about, I don't take action or I procrastinate. I don't have the time or the resources to reach the goal. Maybe I keep putting other people's needs before my own. And this is a real problem with people, and they use this as a rationalization. Well, I've got all of these needs from my family, and you know what your family needs? Your family needs a great example from you. They need to see somebody that makes goals and accomplishes those goals because that will inspire your children. You don't have to stop living life to help your kids. And in some ways, I think that can actually handicap your kids because they don't see a great example from you. On Biggest Loser, that was a show I used to like to watch. I haven't watched it for a couple of years. I'm not even sure if it's still going. But this was probably the number one reason that they kept repeating. These were people that were 300 and 400 pounds. And they kept saying, I don't have time to care for myself, whether it's exercise or preparing a healthy meal or something, because I have all of these other people's needs. And it's typically their family, their children, their spouse. And this is why I've let myself go, because I have all of these other needs. And what they realize by the time they're 300 or 400 pounds is that, you know what? I can't satisfy anybody's needs now. I don't have the health to play with my kids. I don't have, they can't do anything. And so this is, for the most part, a deception, but it's a conscious one. It's something that we can make goals to overcome. Maybe it's a goal that somebody else expects and it's not what you want to do, or negative thoughts. Now, our unconscious reasons, these are much harder to tackle. Maybe I have a belief in opposition or in conflict with my goal. For example, I was raised in a pretty poor household that had the saying, money is the root of all evil. And I thought it came from the scriptures, which, by the way, it doesn't. But that's what I thought. For years and years and years growing up, money is the root of all evil. That made it very hard when I became an adult to break through certain barriers. I had created my own glass ceiling, and in order for me to pass that, I had to start thinking differently. Okay? The first year that I got to a 6-digit income in real estate, I almost felt guilty. I mean, it was cool, but I almost felt guilty. And then I would find myself unconsciously not calling people back, not following up on leads. And I would hold myself back. So year after year, I would barely hit that 6-digit mark, but where I could have easily surpassed it, I didn't. It took me 3 or 4 years to break that mental barrier where I had to feel okay about making more than 6 digits. Okay. And it was all internal. And I'm not, I could blame it on my parents or something. I'm not sure where that quote came from. But playing the blame game doesn't do me any good. I just had this belief. Okay. And for those of you that are curious, the quote is, "The love of money is the root of all evil." And I think it actually came from Shakespeare, not the Bible. But I grew up my whole life believing it was a Bible quote or something. So anyways, if you guys know where it came from, type it in and tell me. But I used to know, but I forgot. But I think it was from Shakespeare. Anyways, that's a simple example of a belief or opposition in conflict with your goal. Fear of failure is a big one. A lot of times we think, you know what? If I give it my best effort and I fail, then I've really failed. However, if I give it a half-assed effort, excuse the French, and I fail, well, then I haven't really failed because I never really tried. And a lot of times people will do that. And I see it a lot of times in sports. Well, we can see it in our children fairly easily in things that they try, but they're a little bit shy or embarrassed, so they don't really give it their best effort. But fear of failure, it's a real one. It holds us back. Another one, self-doubt, okay? Not having confidence. How do you build confidence? When you make a goal, but you don't have confidence there, it's hard to hit that goal. Fear of change, okay? Just fear of the unknown. Anytime we change, it's a little bit scary. Succeeding is scary. And for a long time, I'd heard this, and it wasn't until I read a book on psychology that I really understood it. But when we succeed, when we hit new levels, a lot of times we're afraid of how that's going to change our life. So it kind of ties in with fear of change. But if all of a sudden I'm making 6 digits and I've never made more than 60,000, then is my family going to look at me differently? Are they going to treat me differently? Are my neighbors going to want to bum money off me or something like that? Just how is this going to change my life? What if I really start working hard and then I have to keep working hard or I lose it all? So fear of success because I might actually have to work harder. Those are all legitimate things, but they're typically happening in our unconscious. Not believing you deserve to succeed. And this kind of ties back in with the self-doubt, but maybe you don't think you're worthy of it. You worry about feeling foolish or what others would think. Maybe it's a stress response due to an old coping skill. So there's several unconscious reasons that they've been able to identify that hold us back as well. Now, for the conscious struggles, we can apply our SMART goals. And this is an acronym that I learned in college, and I've changed the A because I don't like the A that I learned in college. I think action should be a part of every SMART goal. So I took the liberty of changing that, and it addresses all of these conscious struggles. Okay, and I'll give you a quick example of that. But the acronym is specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and a time limit. If I make a goal that says I want to earn $100,000 in a year, is it specific? Sure. I've got the dollar amount there. Is it measurable? Yeah, I can measure the dollars. There's no action in it, which is why I feel like this A needed to change out for what they taught me in school. Is it realistic? Depends on the person. And a time limit, I gave myself a year. So really the only thing failing in this goal is the action. And that's a key component for any goals that you want to make. So I'll give you an example of how this comes into play on the next slide. But if I take that goal, if I want to make $100,000 a year, and I apply this acronym to it, then it accomplishes all of these things. Let me give you an example. Okay? So specific, I can break it down and get more specific than 100. I'm going to close 2 deals a month. Is it measurable? Yeah, the homes are going to value $150,000. Now, if you guys recall, I've had trainings on goals and your daily plan and stuff where we do all of this. And so you can apply that to all of your goals. Action. I'm going to make 20 calls a day, set 3 appointments a week, land 1 new client a week. Is it realistic? Yes, I can do this. I'm a full-time agent. I've got the time to make these calls. Time, I'm going to review every week and every month to make sure I'm on track to hit my goal and I'm moving in the right direction. Okay, so if I take this one goal and I apply the SMART acronym to it, you can see how well developed that is. So if I go back and I look at my challenges, I don't know where to start. Yes, I do because of the A. I'm going to make 20 calls a day, set 3 appointments a week, land 1 new client a week. I know where to start. It's starting on the phone. Okay, that's my action. It's not realistic for where you are now. Well, I'm a full-time agent and I know I can commit to this time commitment. So I'm going to jump back and forth and just show you. Is the goal too big? No. I mean, I've never earned $100,000 before in my life, but I can make 20 calls a day. I have that time. Okay, feeling overwhelmed? Again, I focus on the action. This is why I think that A just had to be changed out. I can't remember what the A was supposed to be, what they taught us in college, but it had to be changed out because so much of these conscious struggles depend on being overcome with pure action. Simple steps that I can focus on right here. Okay, every day I can focus on this step and it'll lead me through to the rest of it. Oops, let me go back again. Not enough information or time? Well, I've got the information, I've got the forms. If you joined me in my previous trainings, you have the forms as well to do this. Not taking action and procrastination, those are both overcome with this goal. Putting others' needs before your own. Again, if I keep focused with this, I get my stuff done. Anyways, so this SMART application overcomes in a fairly simple fashion most of those conscious objections, okay? If not all of them. However, what simple thing changes our belief, okay? If I apply this SMART acronym here, does all of a sudden this change my belief that it's okay to make more money? And the answer is no. Something else has to come into play for me to truly take myself to a different level. Because if I don't start thinking differently, I can never act differently. My thoughts will hold me back. So I've got a 5-step process that I want you guys to take notes on today and work on using this. Now, I've used this process in personal coaching or group coaching. Guys have quit smoking with this. They've become successful in real estate. You can apply this to any area of your life that you want. They've had better relationships with their spouse. Some of them have had older kids, teenagers and such, that they involved in this process with them, and it helped their teenage kids as well in school. So this can be a journey that you take yourself on, and you can bring other people with you. So step number 1, find out what you really want out of life. Step number 2, start developing habits in thought and action that will lead you to that point. Step number 3, surround yourself with positive influences. Step number 4, inundate your mind with positive thoughts that energize you and allow you to become a different person. And step number 5, identify and dismiss areas that have held you back, upbringing, social pressure, etc. So let's go through and break these out. Find out what you really want out of life. There was one book that I listened to where somebody counted how many times other people made demands on him. And he got to like 400 or something before noon. And it came from his wife, his children, the radio, billboards, television, co-workers. Everybody will try to tell you what you should want out of life. And when I do this exercise with people, one of the things I pick on in group coaching is real estate. What do you want for real estate? Well, when you don't take the time to do this, what you want is what you've seen on billboards. You want the big $1 million home up on the side of the hill. But it's funny when I do this exercise with people and they come back, they say, you know what? I don't need $1 million place. My wife doesn't want to clean 8,000 square feet. I don't want to be responsible for a security system and worrying about all my stuff going missing. Really what I would like, and I hate yard work. Why do I want to live on 3 acres? I hate the yard work. I like to travel. I like to go on cruises. And so they do this exercise, and all of a sudden they're thinking, you know what? We should really downsize. This 3,000 square foot house, we don't even use a third of it. Let's get a 2,000 square foot condo. Somebody else takes care of the yard and we can travel. And people discover things about themselves. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a big house if that's what you want. Okay? But when you do this self-examination and you learn that, you know what, it's not what I want, that's the important thing. Now you've learned it. So you're not just being guided around like you've got a ring in your nose, like a bull or something. You're not just being guided around by the billboards, by all the marketing, the incessant TV ads that are telling us that we need this bigger, more luxurious lifestyle, because honestly, a lot of people want a little bit of simplification. Now, what if you do this exercise and you do want that luxurious lifestyle? Is there anything wrong with that? The answer is absolutely not. This is very personal. And it comes down to what you want, but you've got to take the time to figure this out. And if you don't, the world will try to push on you what you want, and you may get there. And you may realize, man, I hate this. Okay, this is not what I like. And people don't take the time to figure this out. So this is an exercise, and I got this from a personal coaching program that I paid for by the guy that wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. I forget his name. Anyways, personal coaching plan, it was expensive. I can't remember how much I paid for it, but it was very expensive. And I was very resistant to this because they called it affirmations. And I think affirmations are silly. You know, when I hear affirmations, I picture somebody looking in the mirror saying, you're beautiful, you're handsome, everybody loves you today. People want to hire you to do their real estate transactions. And I just think, man, I feel like a complete a-hole doing that in the mirror. There's no way I can do that and pull it off. And so I resisted and resisted this coach telling me I needed to do affirmations until she told me the science behind it. And still, it's not, you're going to see it's not looking in the mirror and saying I'm beautiful or anything. There is a science behind this, okay? And the science is this. When you create a visualization of what you want, you open the door to achieve that. If you don't have a visualization of what you want, you can't achieve it. Okay? If you don't start thinking differently, you cannot become different. Everything starts with your thoughts. So when you start thinking differently, your actions will automatically follow. And if your actions aren't following you, then eventually you come to a fork in the road where it says, I quit thinking differently because I'm not willing to do the actions, and maybe I discover this isn't really what I want, and I accept less of myself or something like that. And I'll give you some real life examples from me with my affirmations. But this is the exercise that you want to do. Visualize what life you would like to create, and then fully immerse yourself in it. When I do this exercise, I have to close my eyes. Okay? So I close my eyes and I visualize my perfect life, my ideal life. Okay? And I visualize, first of all, I start with myself and I'll slowly work outwards. With myself, what type of person am I? Am I a caring person? Do I have a big heart? What about my intelligence level? Am I an intelligent person? And then I slowly work outwards and, how am I physically? Am I healthy? How do I look? Am I in shape? And then I start to expand out a little bit further. What about the people that are close to me? My wife, my children, how are my relationships with them? What about my neighbors and my community? How are they? What about the place that I live in? What place do I live in? What car do I drive? So do this exercise with yourself and immerse yourself in this experience. Hear the sounds, see your surroundings, imagine how it feels to be your ideal self. And while you've got yourself immersed in this, then describe this experience in a brief statement. Start with the words, I am. And the reason why you start with the words is because when it's not I'm going to be, it is I am, because there's a different feel to that. I am opens the door. I'm going to be says, you know what, I'll open that door tomorrow, but today I'm not going to act any different. So you got to use the words I am. You're using the present tense. You make it specific and brief, okay? couple sentences that describes you, and there'll be different categories that you'll describe it in. So a couple sentences, it's going to be specific. Include at least one dynamic emotion or feeling word. Make this for yourself, not others. And this is important. Okay, you may see family members. In fact, we were talking about this just, I think, yesterday in my office, how sometimes you get married with the intent of changing the other person. Oh yeah, they're wonderful. They just need to change in this area and this area and this area, and then they'll be perfect for me. You know what? You can't do it. It is so hard to even change yourself. Don't even bother trying to change somebody else. Okay, if you have any hope of changing anybody in your life, it needs to be you. So make this for yourself, not for other people. If somebody else you feel like needs to change, have them do this exercise with you and see if it's something that they want. But if they don't want it for themselves, it's not going to happen. Okay, and any changes they do would be temporary, and they would revert back very quickly. Add the phrase "or something better," just because sometimes you're surprised. You know, you make this goal to do 100,000 and you hit 150 your first year. So kind of leave that door open for things to be even better than what you're hoping for. Now, you're going to do this in several categories. If you have a chance to take notes, this is great, or you can later on review the recording. Financial, career, and business, those are two separate things because your financial position isn't the same as your job. Free time, family time, health and appearance, relationships, personal and community. And all of these things kind of come into play when you do that exercise like I described it to you. You start internally and work your way out, but then you want to give a little 2 or 3 sentence description of each of these categories. Okay, so I'll share, and this is personal, but I'll share with you mine. Okay, let me go up here. All right. So my breakthrough goal, my career and business goal is I supervise, train, and help develop 200 or more agents in my brokerage. All right. In the morning, I read through that, and it gives me a different outlook on my day. Sometimes my day is filled with problems, putting out fires, agents that are needy. Sometimes that can be a drain on you. But when I realize, you know what, this is what I want. This is my goal, to help people. That's what gives me joy. Then I try to treat people different, okay? My financial goal was to be debt-free, have 6 months living in the bank. How does this change my life? Well, I'm just as susceptible as anybody to all the marketing that goes on, okay? Is it tempting for me to go out and buy toys? Absolutely. But that's not what's important to me. To me, when I think about my ideal self not having any debt, that's what's important to me. I drive a simple car. I think it was $20,000 brand new. And I'm not saying I want that car forever, because I've really got my eye on a nice car that I want to get. But for now, this is my goal. And this has changed my life. Okay? Having this realization has created a lot of freedom for me. You know, I don't need a boat, because having a boat, yes, that would be a lot of fun. But this feeling right here, when I close my eyes and I imagine my ideal self, it's not up to my eyeballs in debt while I'm, out on a boat or something. To me, having this stress gone from my life would be life-changing. And that frees me up. I don't have to be tempted by all this other stuff. Free time and family time. I'm a man that my wife and kids look up to and admire as an example. I'm devoted to them, and I enjoy spending time with them, and they enjoy spending time with me. This changes me as a person. Okay? And you might look at this and say, well, duh, who wouldn't want that? Well, it's harder for me than it looks. Okay? Do they enjoy spending time with me? Do they get along with me, or am I just being a boss at home, or whatever? Am I devoted to them? Do I take time and make sure that I'm there at their activities, at their soccer games and at their dance stuff? Am I devoted? It does. It changes my life. This next one, if you've met me, it's a little bit of a joke. I'm closer to 200 pounds. Chiseled perfection is not there, but this is my action word. And so when I read this in the morning, I act differently throughout the day. All right. And honestly, if you know me really well, you'll know that I should probably be reading this more often. And honestly, as part of the training, you should be doing this every day. And again, this is a reminder to me that I need to be better. Because guess what? If I'm out drinking soda and eating fast food, this isn't real anymore. So when I read this in the morning, I'm 185 pounds of chiseled perfection. It puts a smile on my face. This language puts a smile on my face, and it makes me want to plan my meals out a little bit better, to not have the junk in my life. We'll go down and see the rest. I have energy to do whatever I want. I'm healthy and leading my family in a healthy lifestyle. This part changes my life too, because it's not enough for me to go to a gym if I sit and watch my kids eating junk. So we've tried to change our eating habits. I talked to my wife about this, and she said, you know what, that's a good idea. So she quit buying junk food to bring home. And if it's not here, we're not eating. If it's here, it doesn't last 2 hours in our house. But if it's not here, we actually tend to do pretty good. Leading my family in a healthy lifestyle, not just with the food that we're buying, but with exercise. So, and this is on again, off again, because it's hard to do. But we had we had a run there where we all got up, and I got 7 people in my family. My wife and I, we got 5 kids. So getting everybody up at 6:30 in the morning and working out for a half hour together, it was really cool. It was so cool to see my little 3-year-old doing sit-ups, It was fun. And to see the confidence that was starting to build in my family, but it all comes from this affirmation that I'd made for myself. And we never did this kind of stuff together before this affirmation. Relationships. I'm a good friend and somebody my friends and family can rely on in times of need. People enjoy spending time with me because they know they are important to me. This changes my life because honestly, I'm not a people person. Okay, letting people know that they're important to me is hard. This is all natural to my wife. She just does this stuff naturally. To me, it's hard. Can my friends and family rely on me in times of need? Yeah. But would they call me because they feel like they have a relationship where they could? Maybe not. That's something that I need to work on. So I have to go out of my way to let people know that they're important. It's not an automatic thing for me. This one changed my life too. I used to be so stressed out, and I'm not saying I'm stress-free right now. I don't know anybody that is. But I used to be so stressed out and worried about things in life. And I took this challenge on. It's actually with another guy in my neighborhood that kind of thinks along similar lines. We read similar books and stuff. And so he came to me and said, if there was one thing in your life that you could change that would change everything else, what would it be? And I said, I'm too stressed. I said, I think I need to do this. And so we made a bet with each other. He had his challenge, I had my challenge, and we communicated to each other, I think on a daily basis. We texted each other and said, yep, I did my goal today. But I did this for a couple of months, and it changed my life. Rather than stressing out, every day I'd try to stop and focus for 15 minutes on all the blessings I had in my life. And it was one of the reasons on my daily planning form that I've shared with you guys that it starts out with 5 things of gratitude. Because I started thinking differently about how my life was going. And then last of all, community. You might think, hey, there's nothing in here about the community, but I felt like, I've got some gaps in my own family. I need to take care of my family before I can worry about taking care of neighbors and helping them out. So this was me getting my family ready. Okay? And what that means is that we budgeted to set aside, and it was not just the getting out of debt stuff, which this kind of tied into other stuff, but it was having some other things, ready to go. So anyways, I wanted to share that with you. That was me personally in all my different categories. And it has an impact changes my life. And so I've identified my core beliefs. Once I have those core beliefs in hand, then I need to cross-check that with my goals. Because maybe I had a goal that I got out of a magazine and it said, to create, and I'm going to be a little bit mocking here, and I apologize if you believe in these things, but the vision boards and stuff where I've got a picture of a yacht on my fridge or something like that, you know what? That's somebody else's vision. That's not my vision. I don't want the debt. We were in San Diego, and I talked to a guy that was, I think he was a captain on one of these yachts, and it was a multi-million-dollar yacht. And I said, how much does it cost to run these things, or to own one of these things? And the guy said, it's not buying them that's the problem. It costs $1 million a year to maintain this. And I said, are you kidding me? He says, no, these are expensive. You got a full crew that you have to have, the cleaning, the maintenance, that kind of stuff, $1 million a year. And I thought, you know what? Man, that's a cool looking yacht, but that is not the lifestyle I want. Okay, so cross-check now your existing goals with your new affirmations on the person that you really want to become. Are they compatible? And if they're not, you have to change your goals, because if they conflict with your vision of your ideal self, you're not going to do them. Okay, so that's step one. Find out what you really want out of life. When you do this exercise, you should be sharing it with your spouse so that they can understand you and you guys can be on the same page. Okay, and thankfully my wife and I are on the same page with most of these things. And it means that we've put ourselves on a budget, her and I both. And that's hard, because sometimes she'll come to me and say, hey, I want this. And I said, great, is that our goal? Well, no. Okay, then let's hold off on it for a little while. And we've been able to, a couple years ago, following this, we got all our credit cards paid off. Then we got all our cars paid off. Then we got our second mortgage paid off. And we're working our way through our first mortgage, which is the last of our debt. It's cool. Changes life. Start developing habits in thought and action that will lead you to that point. Now this, you'll have to forgive me. I've been up since early morning with a headache, and so I'm not thinking as clearly. Andrew Carnegie is what I'm thinking, but I don't think that's right. Anyways, there's a book. I think the title of the book was Live in Day-Tight Compartments. No, it's How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. Write that down. It's a great book. How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie, I think. And it's got this saying in here, live in day-tight compartments. So, daily, review your affirmations. Keep that vision of who you want to become foremost in your mind. Morning and night, review those. Next, calendar action items into your daily plan, business and personal, that will lead you closer to becoming your ideal you. And again, if you're using the forms that I've created, it has space in there to do that. My daily planning form has the top 20 people I need to call. I have the top 5 or more activities I need to do. These are activities that will lead me closer to becoming my ideal self. So they can be personal, as in I need to exercise, I need to meditate. In fact, I have your affirmations and daily goals at the top. I have exercise, it's a checkbox. Planning my day out in advance. All of these things are built into this form that I created for this. Focus on those small daily tasks. Okay? If you focus on little bite-sized chunks, you can do it. If you focus on this great big goal, most people stall out. It's like flooding the engine. Okay? So yesterday's gone. If you screwed up yesterday, don't worry about it. Move on. Today is a brand new day. Tomorrow never comes, so don't worry about the enormity of the task either. Just focus today. I need to make my 20 phone calls. Okay? Focus on what you can do right now. Don't worry about yesterday. Don't worry about tomorrow. Focus on the now. And honestly, there's a lot of joy to be found here. Eastern philosophies talk a lot about this kind of stuff, living in the now. And it really is important. Okay? Next, surround yourself with positive influences. I can't remember who it was, another book that I read, but he said, a quote in there is, you are your 5 closest friends. And his point was, you become like the people you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people that whine and complain a lot, there's a really good chance you whine and complain a lot. Okay? If you surround yourself with people that are goal-driven, that are focused, that are changing their lives, there's a good chance that you're going to become one with them as well. Okay? So, become a part of a community of people who share and work together. You can call it a mastermind group, whatever you want, but find others dedicated to constant improvement. Again, you can involve your family with this. You could create a mastermind group of real estate agents where you get together, you share things, you have a book of the month club or something like that. There's lots of different ways to do this, but be part of a group that's dedicated to constant improvement. Next, love your friends and family unconditionally, but don't stoop to their level. Live your best life so as to inspire them. For example, people that have just come out of drug rehab. I've had some friends, their kids have, gotten into it a little bit, and the kids, they get out of jail or they go through a rehab program, and before they get checked out, they're warned, you cannot go back to your same friends. And they said, well, it was my spouse that actually got me into the drugs. If your spouse is still doing it, you can't go back to your spouse. And I thought, wow, that's harsh. And the answer is yes, it is harsh. But if you go back and hang out with those people that are still doing drugs, you will do drugs again. The relapse is almost, it was in the high 90s, the chances that they're going to relapse. And so rather than you going with them, you make that hard decision. You separate yourself from that group, find a group that's dedicated to constant improvement, and allow that to inspire them. Hey, look, Eric broke away from this. I think I can too. You can inspire other people. Some friends that aren't inspired by that, that make fun of you or mock you, they're going to become unattractive because they see you as somebody that's dedicated to self-improvement, and they're not, and they would rather pull you down than let you rise. And you get tired of being pulled down, and so and they just become unattractive. You might lose some friends in the process, but you'll be gaining new friends because you've got a group of people that are thinking more like you. That's okay. That's okay. Let that be. Okay? And I'm not saying you be antisocial again. Love people unconditionally. But don't allow that as an excuse for you to not live your best life. Okay? You live your best life, and it will inspire them. And you know what? Maybe that friendship will break up, and 3 years from now, that friend will come back to you and say, you know what? I hit rock bottom, and when I think of people that made it out, I think of you. And now I'm committed to being a better person. Help me along the way. That's awesome. Okay? So, surround yourself with people that can be a positive influence. Next, fill your mind with positive thoughts that energize you. We've talked about this before. Daily study should be a habit for you. At least 15 minutes a day, get in this habit. Read good books, inspiring books. Listen to good books or music in your car. There's some really harsh stuff out there, and honestly, some of the harshest stuff is talk radio. If you want to find yourself in a consistent bad mood, listen to talk radio. Whether you're liberal or conservative, it doesn't matter. Those guys have an axe to grind, and they do it by getting people worked up. And when I started doing this, I had to quit watching the news. I used to listen to talk radio, and I'd be pissed off every day. I just quit doing it. Okay, it changed my life. Start filling your head with good things, whether it be good music, whether it be good books. Get a membership to audible.com. If you feel like you're spending a lot of time in your car or on a walk or jogging or something, then you can download a book to your iPhone. And I think I do, 24 or 36 books a year. I know people that do a lot more than that. Get your head in the game. Okay? And last of all, identify and dismiss areas that have held you back. Now, I call this my catch and release program, and this is by far easier said than done. I shared with you guys earlier some of my self-defeating thoughts. I had a friend that had a problem, and he was meeting with a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist was more of a Freudian type and convinced him to blame everything on his mom. And I hate that. And I've talked to other psychologists and stuff, and the ones that I like, they really don't like that as well. Here's why. When I blame something on my mother, let's say that I wanted to blame this thought of money is the root of all evil on my parents, okay? If I blame them for me being poor because they taught me that way, the problem with that is that now I have removed all power within myself to change. Because I could change myself all day long, but it didn't change them, and it's their fault. And if it's their fault, then they've got the power over me. So I can't do that. I can't play that blame game. So another way to say would be, yeah, my mom and dad thought this, but I don't have to think it, and I don't have to blame them for teaching me that, because they're doing the best they could. And the older you get, the more you start to realize everybody around us we're just all doing the best we can. And granted, for some people that really sucks. The best they can do is just atrocious. Still the best they can do, And we have enough flaws and faults within ourselves that we can respect that other people have that too. One of my favorite bumper stickers was, don't blame me or don't judge me or something because I sin differently than you do. It's kind of true. We all have our different challenges in life. And so if somebody hurt me when I was little, now we can get into some things here, honestly, that are terrible. Some kids have gone through some terrible things, some abuse situations and things like, sometimes even as adults, that we may have gone through. But I still stand by this, that we are empowered, even though somebody else did it and we can blame them for those horrible things, we can have control over the now, over how we're doing right now. And we can identify that, yes, somebody hurt me. And yes, they planted bad seeds in my life, but I have control over that now. And I can let those things go, and I can move on with my life, because holding on to those things hurts me. Okay? And I have the choice of whether that hurt goes on or not. Again, not trying to be preachy. I readily admit this is easier said than done, but it's worth working on. So that's the catch and release program. So here's your homework assignment for this week, and honestly, ongoing. Make your affirmations. Take that time, and if it's a quiet moment when you don't have distractions, where you can immerse yourself in that experience, it's going to be more powerful for you. Figure out what you want out of life. Cross-check that experiences with your actual goals, business and personal, and then fine-tune your goals to be in line with your affirmations. Share this with your spouse. If your children are old enough, share this with them. Help them understand that this is the life that I want, so our family is going to be working on these things. Okay? Involve your family with it. It's kind of a cool journey to do this. Practice living in day-tight compartments for 1 week. I'll just share you another thing of family and how this is changing us. With my family, being a leader and stuff, I had never really been a leader as far as leading my family in a healthy lifestyle. I'd never really done it. It was easier for my wife to kind of round us up and try to get us to do. I would come home and I was like, man, I put in my day, I'm checking out. And when I made this affirmation, I thought, you know what, that isn't the kind of person I want to be. I don't want to have a life where I've checked out. Now, honestly, do I struggle with this still today? Absolutely. This is an ongoing challenge for me. But just like those numbers that I quoted you at the very start of this, I'm one of those people in the top 10% that 2 years later I'm still working on the same goal. Still have some challenges in my life. still working on it. I'm not going to give up, because when I give up, I accept myself as mediocre. And I don't believe that. I think I've got more in me than that. So, in leading my family in a healthy lifestyle, every night now we get together, we have a little lesson. Okay, we talk about how our day went, and sometimes it's 10 minutes because we're all tired, and sometimes it'll go for an hour, depending on how engaged the kids are with the topic and stuff. But I try to pick challenges that our family's facing. We have a little lesson on it, ways that we can improve, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see little bits and pieces sink into my kids and help them cope with different challenges in their life. But that's something that we've had to do that we never did before, and it does. These types of things really do change your life. So practice living in day-tight compartments for 1 week. See how well this works for you. Let the stress go. Just focus on what can I do right now today. Plan out some daily steps each morning and focus on that. And then keep a journal of what you learn about yourself. At the end of my daily plan, I have a little spot for a success journal and notes, just a place to jot down some things that I learn about myself. And it can be good things. It can be things that I see as, wow, this consistently comes up and it derails me all the time. This is where I can do better. Somebody's typed in, can we get a copy of the PowerPoint presentation? And no, I'm sorry, I don't give out copies of my PowerPoint presentation. However, you can reference this in, let's see, I think I've got it. Yeah, on my YouTube channel. If you want to watch it again, I'm recording this today, so I'll be able to have that posted up there by later this afternoon. But just go to YouTube and type in Elite Agent Training, and you're welcome to pull that up and watch it again with your family, to involve them with it. So, guys, I hope this helps you in some way. Even if it's a small way, I'll consider that a success. Okay? If you have, again, questions, comments, shout out to me. Let me know where I can help you better. And a quick shout out also to George Coleman with Guaranteed Rate for helping sponsor this and letting us bring it to you guys free of charge. So again, thank you. You guys have, so another comment in here. Oh, it's just a thanks. Appreciate you guys as well. And have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you online next week.